it's Monday, which means it's Star Wars versus Warhammer 40k. I hope you guys had a good weekend. I know I had a decent one, so we're going to go ahead and get started on this. Like I said from the beginning, no long intro. Let's go ahead and get into it. This episode is Faith and Fate Take the Stage.
This cramped, dimly lit room was not ideal for her battle, not by a long shot.
Oh, so we're back to this. Good.
Julia almost regretted her impulsive action, seeing as it had left her without the use of her bolter. She had, upon entering the command bunker, noticed that the crew in front of her were standing and sitting at their stations while simultaneously being still, silent, dead. The Sororitas had assumed witchery and blown the corpses away with a full salvo of her bolter, only thinking to counter a possible ambush from her blind side the moment after her last bolt had expended itself. The Sister Palatine, Rajulia, was regretting her snap decision more and more as she was made to shuffle and maneuver within the enclosed space. Dark at the best of times, the only light entering the command post now came from the outside, a crown of pale sunlight shining in through the squat windows which circled nearly the entirety of the octagonal room.
I give the edge to the Jedi in this fight.
And other artificial light sources had been rendered inert when Rajulia's bolter had turned nearly half the post into an obliterated mess. Cogitators sparked and dripped amniotic substances onto the corpses of their former operators, machine and man equally soulless and unable to aid her. In desperation, her eyes darted to the door. Retreat was a bitter pill to swallow, but every moment she was forced to duel the athletic Xenos warrior, she grew more and more certain of how hopeless her fight was. Her maul could not produce a stable power field, only one that expelled in bursts, more akin to a small thunderhammer than the kind of weapon normally wielded by the law enforcers of the Adeptus Arbites. While this provided her with power, and with a method of forcing the foul Knight of Jedi back, it also meant that she could not lock blades with a man-shaped beast without destroying her own weapon in the process. The Crimson Razors had briefed her and her sisters extensively on these warriors after killing one of their masters during the initial invasion, and she knew well that she faced more than met her eyes in that dim chamber. These handicaps, paired with the cable-laden ground, dark environment, enclosed space, and psychic nature of her fierce foe, was just enough to make the sister consider escape in place of sure defeat.
Okay, so if you're wondering as a Star Wars fan why I say the Jedi has the edge here, despite having the power armor and some of the equipment, despite having, a lot of training, a Sister of Battle is human. They are not they're not psychers. Well, some of them are, of course, but the gross majority of them are not psychers. They're extensively trained in warfare. They're extensively trained in battle. But against a Jedi, they are not going to be able to have this. They don't have the same reflexes as an Astartes, not the durability, not the battle training. The Astartes are on a level entirely on their own. This fight in my mind, should almost already be over. The sister, as much as I love the Sisters of Battle, they cannot compete with a Jedi, especially not a Jedi Master. So this fight is going to go in the Jedi's favor, flat out.
But alas, the door had sealed behind her even before she had blown away the cogitators. She lacked the coordination while in powered armor to reliably tap in the proper code in a hurry, even if she could trust beyond reason that the door would remain powered while all else had gone dark. No, even retreat would not be possible. Rajulia discharged the bolt pistol she clutched in her left hand. She knew now not to aim for the damned Xenos directly, the creature using the warp to increase its own speed or even redirect the trajectory of her own bolts. No. Instead, she used the explosions caused by the bolts themselves, firing the weapons into the ground around them as she fought to deny the alien knight some of her potential avenues of attack. Rajulia felt her heart suddenly launch itself into her throat as the back of her heel caught on a thick, unseen cable which lay across the cluttered ground. She bit down on the dread, trained to harness such things in the instant they occurred, shifting her weight to turn her backward tumble into a full-powered upward kick. The Jedi backflipped from the path of the ruinous blow, her face impassive, as if all of this were merely a tedious chore for her. Rajulia rolled a dial on the handle of her power maul, further extending the shaft of the weapon as she whipped her hand back, smacking the floor behind her and creating a nearly deafening thump. The recoil from her power weapon giving her the push she needed to remain upright as she lowered her leg from the kick, power servos whirring and hissing with the movement. The Jedi had landed in a crouch and slowly, smoothly rose, saber forward. Her movements were unnatural, fueled by the power of the warp, and they struck the Sister of Battle as predatory. Like an ash tiger shifting its weight before a pounce, or the brief moment before a Vostroyan potato bear reared itself up, muscles silently bunching under fur. Or, in this case, beneath the luminous robes. The fight was all but hopeless. Too many factors were against her, and Rajulia knew that even the last 30 seconds of frantic survival had composed some of the best maneuvering and dueling she had ever managed, especially with a power maul. And even then, she had only held her own for this long thanks to her strategic use of her bolt pistol, a pistol which had 2 shots left in it. Her time was ticking down, and from the look on the alien warrior's face, that fact was no secret to either of them. She grit her teeth, controlling her fury as best she could. "Think!" she ordered herself. The brief pause she had been allowed would only last milliseconds more. Rajulia needed to think of something, or to buy more time to think of something. "Sneaking in and butchering our command staff. Just the kind of shadowy, dishonorable tactic I would expect from an alien witch and her order of heretics," she spat. The sister spoke in Gothic. She had not had the time to even begin mastering any of the local languages, and she was only fluent in the most basic sentences of the local dialect. To her partial shock and disgust, the alien's eyes widened slightly and her nostrils flared, clearly comprehending her. "You have no right to speak of honor, butcher. You and your regime are killing millions here on Axum. Innocent men, women, and children. People who were living their lives well enough without the threat of your own order of murderers bringing death and misery for the crime of not being human enough." The alien said back, speaking an accented but understandable Gothic. Rajulia's eyes darted about. The room was so cramped, especially for her in powered armor. And without her helmet on, she had not the augmentations nor transhuman sight to overcome all the darkness and obstacles around her. Yet she steeled her mind and reminded herself that in all things the faithful find a way. Yes, we have killed millions, and we will kill billions more. There is nothing we would not sacrifice, no act we would not commit, no height we shall not reach if it means the survival of humanity. Rajulia retorted. Survival? If survival is what you seek, then why make war with the Republic? Why kill all these people? They are no threat to you, the Jedi said. Rajulia thought, but did not look down at herself as she went over her armaments in her mind. She had more magazines for her discarded bolter, but they would do her no good, and recovering the weapon was out of the question. The alien would skewer her without a second thought. Ha! You think just because you are shaped like humans, just because your faces look like ours, that this means you have succeeded? That you have deceived us, the Emperor's chosen? You have already shown us your true colors, and even if you had not, we would already know of your ways before falling victim to them, the sister accused. The alien blinked in a perfect imitation of human confusion, even shock. Shown our true colors? We have done nothing to earn such abuse from you and your
Yes, they
Emperor.
did.
We were engaged in our own war, which had nothing to do with you, or with humanity in general, the Jedi said. Sister Rajulia also had 2 grenades, one a frag, and the other crack in nature. Even finding the right moment to reach down and snatch either one for use in the fight would be a tremendous challenge. Using the frag grenade in this kind of enclosed space would be suicide. After all, she was equipped with munitions sufficient to kill traitor space marines. Just one such grenade could fill the entire interior of the post with inescapable death. A bitter option, but one nonetheless. More lies, witch! Spare me! I know what your Republic did to the Atlas of Steel. Hundreds of thousands dead in an instant! Would that you could show such fury to us on the battlefield, as you showed to those civilians who arrived, frightened and homeless upon your doorstep. Do not feign ignorance of your sins! Rajulia roared, edging slightly to the left. This time, the Jedi said nothing, but her countenance, so superior and detached before, was now clouded, troubled as the sister's words struck some kind of chord.
The Republic drew first blood. That's the biggest problem they could have ever done. It's a nightmarish thing. The war still would have happened, but unfortunately, even the most stalwart, doubter of Imperial, the Imperial way, would instantaneously go on the bandwagon that the Imperium has to instantaneously declare war and cleanse the galaxy because of what happened. It was the first contact. If you guys don't know about why humanity takes this stance, it's because of its relationship with aliens and what is called Xenos in the 40K universe. At no point, with extremely few exceptions, has humanity coexisted with aliens without one first subduing the other. People that want to argue with that will say something about the Kennebracht. The Kennebracht had fought a war against humanity and lost, and that's why they were part of the Interrex. If you don't know what the Interrex is, Horus Heresy, that's a lot of lore. But the Jedi needs to stop letting her talk at this point and just finish this, because the more the sister gets time to think of something, the more suicidal she's going to become, because she is a zealot, and the Jedi is trying to reason with a zealot right now. And of all the people in the Imperium, you don't want to be sitting there trying to rationalize with one of them. Anyway, shutting up, moving on.
Bored within her. Shakti did know what Rajulia was speaking of. Of course she did. That was no surprise to the Sister Palatine. What was shocking was that the alien would even play at being troubled at all. Rajulia used the time to consider her last weapon, her crack grenade. The crack was a pseudo-magnetic sphere housing within itself a shaped charge affixed to a gyroscope. She knew they were pseudo-magnetic because whatever she hurled them at, be it the metal of a green-skinned tank, the ceramite of a traitor Astartes Terminator, or the biocarapace of a raging Carnifex, the grenades would generally succeed in adhering to the target, the gyroscope within spinning the charge to face the enemy and blowing a precise hole right through the unlucky and likely dead foe. She doubted, however, that such a thing would work against the robes of the Jedi.
It would
that
not.
The blast radius on a crack grenade would not succeed in filling even this space, though it would likely do serious harm to an unaugmented human through the sheer change in air pressure.
Oh, intense.
But such a thing was not something she could rely upon to kill the alien. She settled on her plan of attack just as the Jedi began to speak again. That attack is a mystery, even to us. Please, we do not need to fight. There is clearly some kind of misunderstanding occurring between us. If you come with me, explain your context, your side of the alien began. Rajulia laughed, the sound a hoarse, humorless thing, a sound of tragic hatred, of malice burned so deep and ignited so powerfully that it was all the sister could do to laugh and not lunge out in an expression of her dire fury. You expect me, a holy maiden of the God Emperor, to surrender myself to you? An alien? An honorless witch? A petty heretical assassin? We stand amongst the dead, robbed by your hand and defiled by your psychic blight. And you have the audacity to even attempt to coax me into a surrender? The Jedi recoiled at the words, almost as if struck. She made no attempt to defend herself this time.
The bad thing about it is the sister is 150% right, and there's nothing the Jedi can say about it. There's nothing. There is nothing to say about it, because the Republic did draw first blood. She is assassinating people. Of course she could say something, but yeah, I mean, this argument is extremely well put together, and I applaud a fan with too much time for having the wherewithal to make this kind of a thing.
Merely grimacing, still looking troubled.
For Star Wars fans, literally, the Xenos is an object to be despised, feared, and mistrusted. And I was wondering what would kick off the war, but the destruction of the ship containing the civilians would be the perfect thing to literally make it to where, no matter what was said at that point, there would be no trust at all.
But lifting her saber back into a proper, aggressive posture. Good. Accept this, Xeno. This is the way things should be. The natural state. No deceptions or lies or convoluted schemes. Just you and I and our people fighting for our place in this galaxy. A place which cannot be shared. Rajulia said, falling into a light crouch of her own. You cannot win, said the alien plainly. Rajulia smiled. You arrogantly think that because you have power over the warp, you are so formidable as to challenge me with such certainty? She said, shaking her head. I am a scion of the God Emperor's own will, his mandate made flesh. Within me is his word and his divine light. He is God of mankind, ruler of all, and I am his loyal daughter. What are you to that? She asked. The Jedi scowled. Your Emperor is not here, mad woman. No amount of delusion or belief in your false religion will overcome me or my ally, the Force. Do not surrender to the promise of peace, the potential to end this war.
Oh no, you just lost this argument. It doesn't matter if your point is good or not. You just lost it. You called her religion false. You're going, she's gonna kill you or you're gonna kill her, and that's the only way this ends.
Surrender instead to the certainty of...
Yay. There we go.
Your own death. Death no distant god, real or not, can avert. The alien snapped. She brought her hands together on her saber and leveled the blade towards Rajulia's throat. Death only I can avert, the Jedi Master asserted. As she spoke, she allowed rippling gusts of power and force to come away from her, billowing her robes and nearly forcing the sister back. the pressure sending waves across her exposed face. Rajulia grit her teeth in a scowl which seemed to belong more on a crate dragon than on a human woman. Her servos whirred as she tensed, resisting the small storm before it settled. The Jedi stared her down, confident, though still troubled. No matter what, she was a warrior and had shoved all such issues to the side, focusing now on Sister Rajulia. The sister stood straighter and spat. "I find your lack of faith disgusting. Your mastery over the warp is nothing compared to the power of my faith. But enough words. Let our acts speak the truth," she growled. The Sister Palatine followed the statement by opening fire with her pistol, aiming right for the Jedi as she lunged and began the last
Sister,
charge.
you're gonna die, but gotta send you off with a smile here. Oh. Absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. That was perfect. That was perfect. The bad thing about the Imperium is, it's horrifying, but it's the only way they can be, because if they were to relax their position against the Eldar, for instance, the Eldar they view humanity with beneath contempt, with like there's just not a level for it. They don't even view them as useful idiots. They view them like the Eldar see humanity as a shattered mirror reflection of themselves, and they can't stand it. They really can't. The Orcs would simply just do whatever. Pretty much every alien species whatsoever, including the Tau, if humanity were to be in a weakened state, they would immediately seize the opportunity to seize as much territory as possible, regardless of how many humans they killed. In fact, some would go out of their way to kill humans, and some would go out of their way to do far worse. The Imperium is like it is for a reason. In any case, I love this episode. Excellently done. Pop a like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Hit button.